Hey friends, this is Joshua Prieto from the Seeds of Doubt podcast, and I just wanted to take a moment and talk to you a little bit about something that I took away from this week's podcast with Jessica Nad. Jessica and her story is wonderful. You should give the podcast a listen. Her story is really so impactful. Right now, our farmers are doing a great service for us, providing us food. A lot of times we don't even understand the complexities of their work and their livelihood. And she really does kind of bring that to us in a really amazing way, and shares a little bit more about her story and her husband's health crisis as he was introduced to chemicals over a very long period of time, and the chronic illness that it had taken on her husband. And so it affected their livelihood because he was a farming consultant, and he basically got out of the industry because of that, or moved into a new form of work in soil health and soil health consulting. Is what they're doing now, and so it was a really awesome story. But one of the big epiphanies that I took away is that there's really the small decisions that we make can have great impact. If we are to change our food system, if we are to be less reliant on chemicals, or to become completely independent from our chemical use and the inputs there, it starts with us, and it starts with the small decisions that we make and small changes that we make. The permaculture principle, small and slow solutions, really holds true in this. And there is a couple things that were brought to my mind of how do we really find those small and slow solutions in our life? How do we recognize those? How do they come into our life and see that we can create change in a number of different ways? And so I wanted to really talk about that for this seed of the week. If we're gonna eat the change that we wish to see and make that small little change in our lives, there are other small little changes in our lives that we can recognize within our businesses that we're creating as we create our regenerative livelihood. And there are ways that we can recognize those, and that's what I really wanted to bring up here. Are a couple ways that you can see the patterns that exist in your life and around you, and evaluate those so that you can start to create these small and simple solutions, or small and slow solutions that really create big differences later down the line. So one of the things that I've noticed is, let me catch up where my thought is here. So there are two big habits that have helped me to recognize patterns in my life and patterns in my environment that will help me to more easily see the solutions, the small and simple solutions, or small and slow solutions that are all around me. And one of those is, I have taken to heart two core routines that John Young and his fellow writers Ellen Haas and Evan McGowan write in Coyote's Guide to Connecting with Nature. And I've taken these to heart and have applied these over time, and they have helped me to recognize and find solutions in my life and in my business. And one big thing is finding a sit spot. And that's why we're out here today, because I wanted to just show you, I live in a very suburban area. There's some houses in the background. It's kind of blown out right now, but if I take it down, you can kind of see. There's some houses in the background. This used to be an old horse trail that existed. If you can see this, now it's too dark. I can't even see my face. But this used to be a whole old horse trail, and then they paved it. But this is my sit spot. I come here in the mornings. I come here when I need a quick break for during lunchtime, and I come here to reset myself and as far as I can, or as quickly as I can, get into nature. Now, there's other places that I can do that. There's some wonderful hills that I also have some other places that I visit when I'm seeking some solitude and a place to ponder. But this habit, I try to do it at least once a day, and I spend a half an hour to an hour in my sit spot in nature. And what this allows me to do is I get to see the wonderful patterns that already exist in nature. The patterns of the day, the sun going over the horizon, and the sun, in the winter, the seasons. I get to see that, and I consistently come here to do that. And then I see different patterns. There's a there's a tabby cat that's always around here, and I see the mice that it gets in this little field over here, and I get to see, a couple weeks ago I saw some deer early morning before the sun was up, coming in through this horse trail area, and yeah, so it's using this sit spot, and I'll tell you why this is relevant to our lives and to our business, because you start to recognize and see the subtle things that are around you, and solutions are very subtle. Most solutions are going to be these small things. They're not going to be these huge grandiose things that we often think of as like, this is the big solution to the biggest problem in the world, it's going to be solved right here, and this is how it's going to happen. Usually how solutions come is they're small and gradual over time. And so if we look at that, and we look at nature, and we see and we pattern the way nature finds solutions to different things, we can then apply it to our lives as well. And so as I sit in nature, I contemplate different things, and I try to apply this second habit that I've been working on, is questioning and tracking. And it's a core routine within Coyote's Guide again, but I want to mention it because it's helped me in my business, and it's helped me in my personal life. And the way that I apply it, especially while I'm in my sit spot, I'll be sitting here and I'll be looking, I see, it's been snowing, and a little tabby cat is actually by a tree right now. I don't know if you can see him. He's right there. Let's see, right there. You see him? And he comes up and does all sorts of things. But I see his tracks everywhere. I even see it in the snow, and I see him pull stuff from the weeds, and I hear the birds, and I recognize the birds, and I know when the birds are doing a certain sound that cat is around, right? And it's really fascinating to hear that. And so it's funny because the cat, I'll be like, I bet you the cat's around here, and all of a sudden I'll see the cat, and then the cat will come over to me, right, and get its pets for whatever. And this is a pattern that I've recognized, and it's something that I see, and it's something in my environment, and I recognize it in a very subtle way now. And it took me time to recognize the different calls of the birds, and to know when they're alerting, or know when they're just playfully singing, right? And it took me a little while to understand that this was this cat's stomping ground, and where it actually hunts, and where it lives in its home. But now that I understand these things, I can track and question, and that's what I've been doing. I just been questioning, and I ask myself little questions, and then I find the answer to them, and then I track back where something existed, and I asked a question about it. That doesn't make sense. So I track and I try to discover and uncover things, and then I find another answer. And as I do that, things come up, understandings come up, and I gain a better knowledge. And sometimes solutions come up to questions that I've been answering. And to practice that's the more physical way of practicing that in nature. But if I pattern that into my personal life as well, I notice that there are ways that I find answers to my relationship challenges, or my business challenges, or my personal emotional challenges, right? And so in the same way as if I'm sitting and pondering during my sit spot, sometimes I'll think about an emotion that I'm having, and I try to track back where that emotion came from, and I question, why is that emotion happening? And sometimes I'll take out a journal and I'll journal about that emotion or that thought that I'm having. And as I do that, I start to learn and gain answers to things deeper and deeper. And there's two important things to take into consideration when you're doing this and you're trying to apply it to your personal life. One is that you should never be judgmental, and you should always be very curious. You're always curious. You're curious to find out the most simple details, right? Why did I think that way? And not being judgmental of why you were thinking about that way, but openly curious about why you were thinking that way. And then you start to understand that it's a behavior that's happening over and over again. And then you ask yourself, well, can I change that? If it's something that I don't desire in my life, an emotion that doesn't cause me, or an emotion that I often am reactive to, right? And a thought that causes an emotion that I become really reactive to, then how do I, what are some ways that I can get rid of that emotion, that anger, that fear, or that impulsive behavior, right? And so you think about it and you track back, and you're curious about it, and answers come. Small and slow solutions come to your mind, and it's something that you can act on usually right away. So that's something that's been helpful to me. I hope I hope it will be helpful to you as you learn and apply it, because it's also something. So that's a personal way, but you can apply this to your relationships and your business relationships. You can apply this to business challenges, and start tracking and questioning everything. I track my emotions and my thoughts daily in a journal, and I recognize patterns in them, and I over time start to recognize things more clearly, or it's easier for me to see when I'm acting a certain way because of a certain thought or emotion. And then I do the same thing with my relationships. I'm never judgmental about it, but I'm always curious to know what other people are thinking. And here's that cat, if you can see him. No, don't want to come. Maybe later. As it rolls on the ground. Anyways, so this has been super beneficial to me to be able to apply to my relationships, and especially within business. Why is my colleague acting this way? It seems like there might be some doubt or fear in that emotion, or in that action, in that reaction. And is there any proof of that? Is there anything that would suggest that? And I ask myself that question. I try to track back, and then maybe I have a conversation with them. But I'm very curious, and I'm open to trying to get to know their challenge. And in a very nonviolent way, I'm trying to understand their needs, and not be triggered or move forward. But I'm just trying to find a small and simple solution within there that I can see that will help me move my work forward. So we hopefully haven't beaten this too far into the ground for you, but I wanted you to take this away as you go about your week this week, for a seed for you to apply, so that you can find those small solutions that come up in our daily life and take action on them and use them in your life. And those are two really strong ways that I've been able to recognize and find solutions to my challenges and problems, is by one, getting out in nature and learning the patterns and learning from nature and how nature solves problems, and being curious and questioning everything is the second habit, questioning and tracking everything. And this goes into our business. Track and keep data on everything. If you're growing food, what are your inputs, what are your outputs, track it, and track it so consistently that you can start to recognize patterns and it becomes second nature to you, so that when it is natural to you, the challenge the solutions to your challenges unfold naturally. All right, that's all I have to say for today for the seed of the week, and I hope you enjoy this. We'll add some we'll add this to the blog post as well after this gets uploaded, and enjoy. Bye for now. See you next week on the podcast or the next seed of the week.